It's October 30th, 2014. And a little bit earlier I gave an introduction to my budget plan, which I demonstrated was up there on the refrigerator, and is a reminder to myself of how much I will try to spend per week on fresh produce at the grocery store or other items that may be needed. And that is in addition to buying things in bulk. And I mentioned also that I did not have refrigeration, and so that I preserved some things and bought dehydrated items that store and keep well. And I wanted to go over a couple of those things real quick, and I think that's going to be the first budget lesson on making adjustments for some things that occur. And I haven't had a refrigerator for about a year, and that does not mean that I have things spoiling or rotting or molding around my house either. What it means is that I had to adapt and figure out, okay, well, what kinds of items can I buy that will store and keep, for example, dehydrated carrots, broccoli, and spinach in sealed up packages and that kind of thing. And then when I have things out and I've cooked them, what kind of portions can I make, and how long can I keep things out? I can keep things on the stove for a while and keep them heated, and that will keep things okay. And then there are other items that you bake that you don't want to mold as fast, or maybe I might buy something from the store, and maybe I don't want an onion to mold that I am not able to put in the refrigerator, so I would put it possibly into some white vinegar with 5% acidity, and that will protect it and keep it from going bad, and I can use it from the jar whenever I need to for any amount of time, just like an onion powder, but instead fresh onion, or vinegar onion. So some of the different I'm also vegan, so I do not have like cheese or meat, milk, any kind of dairy or animal products, which would be much harder to store. I mean, you could definitely make beef jerky or something like that, I guess, if you had the right things with you. But because I am vegan, I don't have to worry about how I store milk, and don't need a cow outside my door to get fresh milk every single day, because I don't drink milk. I get calcium through other means, like other vegans do. So actually, that conveniently eliminates a potential problem in how to store things. And some of the items that you can use to naturally preserve food and extend the shelf life are honey, which I mentioned just because, but I also don't use honey because it's an animal product. It comes from bees. And vegetarians, of course, use honey, and they drink milk typically, and they just don't eat some kinds of meat most of the time. But vegans tend to stay away from any kind of animal product. And it's not that big a deal. If I choose or want to have some honey, then I will. It's not that big of a deal. But for me personally, I just choose not to. So sugar is also preservative. It preserves jam and preserves cookies. It's why you can keep cookies out in a cookie jar that's not airtight for a very long time. And they might stale a little bit, but often if it's high enough in sugar content and or soy lecithin, it's not going to go bad. And there are also certain kinds of cookies that people in different countries have made over the years, over the centuries, that store for a very long time, like extremely hard cookies. Biscuits is, I think, what they call them. And they're pretty much like dog bones. I mean, they're hard. They're hard and tough, and you can dip them into tea or coffee, and they'll soften up a little bit. But they are so hard, and they're baked down like that because they store very well in hot or humid conditions. So, for example, I could make 2 different kinds of cookies. I could make one kind that's, chocolate chip and soft, normal chocolate chip cookies, and then I could also make some hardtack cookies and add some other things and preservatives to those cookies that will turn them into pretty tough biscuits that will actually end up being preserved a lot longer and will not mold for a very long time. So those are some ideas. Sugar, soy lecithin, I mentioned. Soy lecithin is a vegan alternative. It's from a bean or legume. It's from soybeans. And it's lecithin like egg lecithin is, but it's from the bean, and and it works very well. It's used in a lot of commercial products. If you look at the back of packaging for bread, cookies, and other baked goods, even some canned items and other kinds of things, there's often soy lecithin added, and that's a fairly harmless preservative. I don't like personally having tons of soy in my diet, so I don't, add a lot of that to anything. But if I want to extend a shelf life of maybe I decide to make 3 loaves of bread at a time. I could possibly just leave 1 loaf of bread as is, just with the regular ingredients, and then maybe I would make 1 with more soy lecithin, or 2 with soy lecithin. The other thing is oil. Oil preserves things. Of course, oil can go rancid if it's not stored properly and it's kept for a very long amount of time. But oil, in general, stores will keep sun-dried tomatoes and like sesame seeds. If you grind up sesame seeds and you just grind them up with water and leave them out in a jar, they're going to ferment at some point. If you grind sesame seeds with some oil, they will not ferment in the same way. Or it will, that sesame seed product will not ferment in the same way. There's also salt. There's iodized and non-iodized. They both do different things and they both work as preservatives in different ways. Iodized will keep things from getting moldy quite as much, and it tends to stop the fermentation process. Non-iodized salt is used for things like sauerkraut and items that you do want to ferment, and it creates a healthy fermentation that is also a preservative. Sauerkraut will keep for a very long time, and it's not old or bad. It's fermented, and it has very good bacteria that go with that. The other item is vinegar. Vinegar will keep things from getting moldy. Of course, a lot of hot sauces are made with vinegar, and you can store a lot of different kinds of vegetables and quote-unquote pickling them if you want to. But if you're not canning specifically, you can also just put things in vinegar for a while, and they'll keep for a very long time. Some things like xanthan gum it's a binder. It's like a flour and pastry product binder. You can use that. Sometimes that will kind of create it's not, I don't know exactly what it does chemically, but it works as a binder that does not allow for as fast of a mold process as some of these binders do with breads or anything that will toughen up a cookie. And ascorbic acid, like vitamin C. We know that if you make a fruit salad and you cut up some apples, they're going to turn yellow or discolor a little bit from the oxidation from the air. And if you add lemon juice or something with vitamin C in it, or ascorbic acid, it keeps it from doing that, at least to the same extent. And you can buy ascorbic acid in powder form and add ascorbic acid to different things, and that works as a natural form of preservative too. So those are some of the basic. Those are some of the major items that I use for preservatives, and all of them are natural. I don't have to use any BHT or anything like that to keep my food safe. And so, and also, you know, as I said, being vegan really simplifies things too. So those are some ideas for how to, you know, make some adaptations, if needed, ever, on extending shelf life of food products without refrigeration and doing it in a safe way.